Good morning, guys. Smelling roses here. Waking up early this morning for day 2 here at False Cape State Park. Back at camp now, getting ready to fix some coffee and some breakfast, and simultaneously getting my day pack geared up with a few items for today's explorations. I've already been down to the beach this morning to check out the sunrise. I slept great last night. The coyotes were really singing last night. A lot of coyotes in the area, and they were very loud. They were very close. So we had some great views of the sunrise and the beach scenes this morning. Not really a beach guy myself. You guys know I prefer the higher elevations, but I was really drawn to this area because of its remoteness and the difficulty in accessing it. It's just definitely a smelling roses type place to visit. So I'm going to brew up some coffee and have some breakfast, get my day pack ready, and then we'll get on the trail. Alright guys, miles and miles and miles of pristine, undeveloped beach, and there's nobody out here but me. Awesome. So far I haven't told you guys much about False Cape State Park. You know from the hike in yesterday that we had to park in a city park in Virginia Beach and hike through the Back Bay National Wildlife Refuge, which borders the northern side of False Cape State Park. And of course we have the Atlantic Ocean on the east side and the Back Bay on the west, and the park borders North Carolina at the southern end. In the past, a lot of maritime navigators would confuse this area with an area that's just north of here for the inlet to the Chesapeake Bay, and they would often think that they were up there, and so they would start coming in to enter the bay, but they were actually here. And apparently the waters just off the coast are very shallow, and this area is really famous for shipwrecks, and that's how it got the name False Cape. We're actually on our way right now to try to see the remains of one such shipwreck, the Clythia ship, which wrecked in 1894, and apparently the remains are still visible just offshore. Low tide for this area was actually just about sunrise earlier this morning, so the tide is on its way in, but it will not reach maximum until this afternoon, maybe around 2 p.m. It's before 9 a.m. right now, so we're just going to hike down the beach. It's a couple of miles, but this will be the shortest distance to the shipwreck. And right now, with the high tide still not fully in, we can walk on this hard-packed sand, and it's an easy hike, and we should make good timing down to the shipwreck. I mentioned yesterday that there is no vehicle access to False Cape State Park. You must hike, bike, or boat in. But in case you guys notice fresh tire marks here on the beach, obviously the state park staff utilize the beach and some of the interior roads for service, and there are certain residents of the North Carolina Outer Banks that get a special permit to use the beach to access their property down in North Carolina. Guys, I'm now in the far southern portion of the state park. This is known as the Wash Woods area. We're almost to the North Carolina state line, and unfortunately I failed to find the Clythia shipwreck. Well guys, we're only a few hundred feet now from the park boundary and the fence that separates Virginia and North Carolina. Of course, it's all private property on the North Carolina side of the fence. And I just passed an older couple walking here on the beach. They came over from North Carolina. Apparently they are residents there on the Outer Banks of North Carolina. And the lady informed me that you can generally see the shipwreck. It is still there. But she said if I didn't see it, it's because the waves are too rough and it must be under the water. That's why I wanted to come out here early, but high tide is already on its way in and it's a little bit windy, so the ocean was just a little too rough this morning to see the shipwreck. But if anybody comes out here, try to plan it for low tide on a calm day, and apparently you can see the Clythia 1894 shipwreck remains. So we'll head on down to the fence. Welcome to the southern border of Falls Cape State Park, and indeed the southern shoreline of Virginia. The other side of this fence is North Carolina, and it's all private property. Over there in North Carolina, you can see some private homes. A lot of people out on the beach fishing. Of course, this time of year the water is too cold for swimming, but very pleasant temperatures to enjoy the beach. I don't know about you guys though, I like it much better on this side of the fence. So there on the North Carolina side of the fence, private property, private homes, development, civilization, and contrast that with the Virginia side, Falls Cape State Park. Miles and miles, pristine wilderness. Like I said earlier, I know which side of the fence I like. I'm going to be hiking the Sandy Ridge Trail pretty much on and off all day as we make our way back towards camp, but we'll be taking some side trails here and there to check out other highlights of the area. This is the Ocean Pearl Trail, and we're now heading back south once again towards the North Carolina state line, and we're going to take the Monument Trail and a couple of other trails and check out a marker at the state line. So we are literally hiking the state line now. Of course, we're in Virginia here in Falls Cape State Park, but we are right along the fence between the two states. Okay, check it out guys, we have arrived to the monument, and we're gonna sneak across the border to the North Carolina side of the fence. And here's the state line monument. There are dozens of these monuments all along the state line between Virginia and North Carolina, from east to west. North Carolina and Virginia boundary, and it was resurveyed in 1887, and it has the names of the commissioner and engineers, I assume from the 1887 survey. And down below it says that the governor of North Carolina was A.M. Scales and Fitzhugh Lee was the governor of Virginia. That's pretty cool. The west facing side of the monument gives us the latitude, and this is monument number 1. Check out that Spanish moss, guys. Beautiful example of it right here along the side of the trail. Southern Virginia is about the northern extreme for this plant. Okay guys, we're now on the Cemetery Trail, and we're going to make our way down to check out the remains of the Washwoods Church and Cemetery. Guys, this is the site of the Washwoods Church. It was built sometime after 1895. Obviously, this is not the original church. The only thing that remains of the original structure is parts of the foundation here. And inside this new building is, I don't think you can see it because of the reflection of the glass, but inside there is the steeple, all that remains of the original building. Picked up a little pamphlet here that has a picture of the original building on it, and you can see the top of the steeple. That is what is preserved inside this new shed. Most of the people that made up the community of Washwoods were fishermen, hunters, and farmers, and in some cases crews of the ships that became shipwrecked. Around 1895, one such ship ran ashore just off the coast here, and the ship was destroyed, but cedar lumber was salvaged from the wreck and was used to construct the Methodist church here. After the turn of the 20th century, the population of the area declined rapidly, and the church actually was closed by 1930. There is a small cemetery here as well. We'll have a look. These grave sites are from the early 1900s, 1915, 1902. There's a 4-year-old child, died in 1918, 1905, 1906. This area is called washed woods because during storms, ocean water would rush over the dunes and basically wash the woods here, so that's the origin of the name of the community. You can imagine that due to the hardy nature of the type of people that lived here, as well as the numerous shipwrecks offshore, this area also has a large number of ghost stories and paranormal stories associated with it. This road is the Vir-Mar Trail. It's a very short trail that will take us down to the shores of the Back Bay, and there's a education center down there. And before this area became a state park, the land was privately held by some hunt clubs, and this building down here that is now the education center was actually one of the lodges for the hunt club. Pretty cool old ship anchor. And it's the Washwoods Environmental Education Center. Small house here. And the main building straight ahead. Well, from the looks of this lodge, membership in the hunt club was probably pretty exclusive. Nowadays it's used for educational programs here in the state park, and we can see there's a beautiful view out onto the Back Bay. Guys, straight ahead there is the Maple Leaf Trail, and I came through there last night when I returned from the Back Bay, and I said that today we might complete the trail on this side. This is a very pleasant trail because it's a hiker-only trail, and you can see that it gets very little traffic, unlike the other trails which are somewhat more like roads, or actually are roads in some cases. And those trails accommodate hikers and bikers. But the Maple Leaf Trail is a hiker-only trail and goes through this very pleasant stretch of woods. This trail is almost like bushwhacking because it's very difficult to follow. There are occasional markers, but this trail is not heavily used, that's for sure. Here's an example of the trail markers. Just this wooden stake with the blaze painted on the top. Okay, we're out in the dunes now, so much more challenging hike. Deep, soft sand. So I guess we're on our own, and turns out it really is bushwhacking after all. Alright, still no signs of the trail. So it looks like we're back on the trail. There's another marker down there. And I also see the sign for the False Cape Landing Trail, which takes us to camp. So we're near the end of the Maple Leaf Trail. Alright, Home sweet home. Time for a break. Alright guys, after that long grueling hike, I think it's a great time to brew up some tea.